What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Clinical Marketer. Today we got Dustin Howard, the high-ticket PT who coaches and shows people that it's possible to sell plans of care for more than $2,000, even exceeding the $3,000 mark last time we were talking. So Dustin is an incredible salesman. He's incredibly good at demonstrating the value of physical therapy and getting people to not buy physical therapy, but buy the end result that he's been promising them and making them believe that they can achieve through his services. So Dustin, thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, it's always fun talking with you because we always go off in these completely random tangents that we don't really know where they're going, but they always end up being super valuable. So
Hey, it's always a good time, man. I enjoy it because it's not scripted. That's not the way I am, anyways. I'm never scripted.
That's how we roll. We win it every time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. So right now you're running the high ticket physical therapy group. You just launched your new high ticket physical therapy mastermind, which I hear is going super well. And you and I have talked about your sales tactics, and I know they're brilliant. But today, people already can assume that you have a pretty successful concierge practice. But today I want to focus on how you got there, like how you got your first clients, how you got them to start referring so much to you. Because to my understanding, you don't do a whole lot of paid advertising, at least not right now, right?
No, I haven't been. I tried for a little while, and it just wasn't working for the market that I was going for. And I serve, for those that know, that I serve business owners, executives. I do have recording artists that I work with as well. And to be honest with you, it's very, very, very hard to target those people. Most of these people aren't really looking, in my experience at least, and Jordan, you probably know, you could probably do this way better than I am because I'm not like a marketer per se. But it's very hard to get those people on a paid advertisement, drive them to a website and get them pulled in cold. It's really hard to do that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, think about it. Like, they're the people that have money, and every business in the world is trying to target those people. So they're like numb to any sort of ad that you can be throwing out there. Not that it doesn't work. It's definitely a different approach has to be taken with it. But I think why I wanted to have you on here in the first place is everyone who's getting started or wants to get involved with digital marketing, they think they have to do it, or they think that's the only way that they can do it. And you've had tremendous success just in the grand scheme of things. Like, you've been open for a pretty short amount of time, and you've had a lot of success in that short amount of time without running paid ads. Yeah. And I think that's amazing, and I think that's something I'd like to focus on. So when you did get started, can you walk me through like what your business was like when you first got started before we talk about how you got those first patients?
Oh, of course. So, I'll tell you exactly how my business started. I literally had a friend of mine, and he's a very wealthy individual, and he just reached out to me one day. He's like, "Hey, man, I've got this hip pain. I really feel like I need to get some help. I feel like you can help me. Could you come and take a look at things?" Well, yeah, I have a portable table, and I know you're not going to sue me because you got plenty of money. So there's no real reason for you to sue me. So, and I didn't have a business up there or anything. So I was like, okay, let's just go do the thing. And so I go and see the guy, and it turns out he has a really simple hip problem. Fixed it that day. Just figured out, okay, had some movement issues. Fixed that. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You need to do this for yourself. And I will never ever forget what his words were. Like, I was standing actually in the lobby of his house. You have to understand, it's a massive house. I was just standing in the lobby of his house, and he goes, "Dustin, people like me want to work with people like you." And I said, "Really?" And what he was referring to was people who are affluent, people that have that actually do have money. They're wealthy people. They want to work with me in the way that I work with him. In other words, he doesn't want to go, and he actually told me this. He said, "I don't want to go stand in a line. I don't want to go sit in a lobby and wait to be pulled into a big room of people where I'm getting seen with 3 or 4 other people at the same time. That's not what I want to do. I want to cut to the front of the line, and I want to be seen before everybody else. I am a busy guy. My time is very valuable, and I will pay you for that." Right. And that's literally how I got my first client. Was he reached out to me, and I figured out, wow, okay, this is a potential market. And the more I talked to him, he said, "Yeah, there are a lot more people just like me that need your help."
Oh yeah.
And I said, okay. there we go. So that's legitimately, that's how I started.
That's so cool. And how did you come in contact with this person initially?
So in all honesty, he was a friend from church. And I knew him from there, and he just, I met with him and we had lunch one day, just because we hit it off, and I don't really meet strangers anymore. I used to be this very shy, timid person, which this will actually feed into why I get so many darn people, by the way, is because I used to be the guy that was afraid to talk to people, afraid to, I was the guy in class that I would just zip it down and would not say a word. I'd just be sitting there. I know the answer to the question. Teacher called me and I'd be like, don't call me. I just wouldn't talk. And anyway, so I got out of that, and I met this guy, and he's like, we need to have lunch because I really like you. You're a great guy. I'd really love to learn more about you. That's okay. And so literally just by being friendly to a guy at church, he got to know me and he got to know what I do. And then he reached out to me personally because he knew I was somebody that he could trust. And that right there is probably one of the biggest reasons why I get the clients that I get, and why they trust me and why they refer other people to me. Is because, like I said, I don't meet strangers anymore. I literally, I strike up conversations with people, and I strike up conversations with people at a coffee shop, or if I'm standing in the line somewhere. It doesn't matter where it's at. I'll just talk to people and meet them. And especially if I know I'm in an area where my target audience is going to be, I'll talk with them. If I'm having lunch in Green Hills in Nashville, Tennessee, I know there's a high likelihood the people that I'm going to be around in that area have a decent bit of money, because they're all driving Mercedes G-Wagons and the Porsches and all the nice cars. They're like, okay, so they have money. Might as well be friendly to them, talk with them. And have a conversation. And what happens sometimes is I legitimately get pulled into their lunch table, and I will sit and talk to them at lunch. They'll ask more about me and ask for my information because they know somebody that needs my help.
Very good. I'm going to dig into that because I think there's a lot of unpacking to do there, because people have a hard time figuring out how to talk to people and get the end result that they're actually looking for. So I think there's a lot to dig into there. But when this individual that you're friends with from church reached out to you, when he asked for you to help him, how out of the ordinary was the request, or like the style of treatment?
I mean, it wasn't that out of the ordinary, in all honesty. It was an evaluation. I just went in and I just checked him out. I was like, okay. I did exactly what I do. I'd figure out, when did the problem start? How did it start? What's been going on? What's it limiting you from doing? All the normal things that you do. Then you go through your tests and measures and all the normal stuff that you do. And I always do pre-test, post-test. I will, in one session, I'll test something and then I'll retest it again, because for me, it gives me a direct response as to, okay, I'm on the right thing. For a clinician's sake, but it's also a sales technique that I do too, by the way. I use that to show them, like, okay, you had pain with this. You don't have pain with this anymore. Do you see why I'm looking at this? Oh my gosh, yes. And it's okay. In order for us to take you down this process to get you the result that you want, we're going to have to address all those areas that I showed you that I could change just like that. How does that sound? And they're like, okay, so that
makes a lot of sense. Yeah. No, it's really good. Okay. So the request wasn't super out of the ordinary, but the reason I asked is because I think, or I wonder how often PTs are asked to do something that might go against like what they always do. So they just say no, rather than seeing it as an opportunity of like, wait, what if I did offer this? Do you see that with any of your students?
Oh, absolutely. People miss opportunities all the time of being able to have a conversation. Because the truth about sales is it's a conversation with someone about whether you can help them or not. That's what sales is. And it's actually about helping. It's not about selling. It's actually about helping. And it's what a lot of people understand is like, yeah, I want to help them, but I don't know. I'm afraid that I'll come off weird or whatever. They just asked you for help. Why in the world would you not go and help them? Even if it turns out that they tell you no, why would you not go and help them? In my mind, it's like our moral obligation and our duty to at least go to try to serve them. So I'm always telling people, pull the darn trigger, go and help someone. And guess what? It might just turn out that they're a great client for you. And if they are, they buy from you, and then they buy from you again, and then they buy from you again. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, I think if I was someone in the audience who's super skeptical and thinking like, there's no way that you can charge so much for PT, or I don't connect well with very affluent people. Were you an affluent? Did you have an affluent upbringing?
No. I grew up in a small town in South Arkansas, 14,000 people, and I got my brother's hand-me-downs. Okay, I was given at the most. I had to try to split $5 for lunch for like 3 days, y'all. I mean, like that was my life growing up. My parents were like, "Hey, take it easy on the bank account." Okay, they actually gave me. Fortunately, they programmed in my brain enough because they gave me their debit card and they were like, "Don't you dare go spend a lot of money on this card."
Oh,
and fortunately I didn't. I was smart enough that I didn't. But I always felt like, no, I don't want to charge too much. I don't want to spend too much. That was my mindset growing up. My mindset was very limited, very lack oriented, and not abundance oriented. And that's the way my parents grew up. So like and my parents, like their parents were dirt poor, like incredibly poor. They moved the needle up a little bit. They're doing much better now. But when I was growing up, we weren't that up. We had no money.
Yeah. I'm almost the exact same situation. So the question then becomes like, how did you gain the confidence to talk to these highly affluent people? Like, do you emulate their behavior, or is there a certain way that you act that they respond better to, or do you have any, I guess, methods of building a connection with someone when you come from very different backgrounds?
To be honest with you, I used to think the same thing about like being like, oh, I won't be able to connect with them. It won't make sense. But the real truth is that they're actually human beings too, and they love to have conversations with people. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. Like when I'm talking with someone, oftentimes, I mean, there are some people I know. Okay, yes, you're wealthy. I know that. But then there are other people I meet, like one of my my clients, 28 years old. You would not know if you met him on the street. You would not know unless you saw him get out of his car. You would not know that he has money. You just wouldn't know it because like, 28-year-old. Yeah, I mean, you probably don't make it. That dude makes like millions more than I do. He has an 8-figure business. Like,
yeah, that'll do it.
You just wouldn't know it. So the thought process behind, well, I just don't connect with them. Well, do you connect with human beings? Well, yeah. Okay. It's not really that much different, actually. When you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, just talk to them. Have a conversation. They have pain too. They have struggles too. And they have money to pay for their pains and struggles. So why not have a conversation with them? So yeah, no, to get back on the question, it's like, no, I mean, I don't approach them any different. And in fact, they actually love to be just talked with like a human being as well. So it's, yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten some of people that I idolize to work with me only because I just treated them like they're any other person. Like GT, for example. Him and his wife were standing there and they're just flooded, just surrounded with people. And I went and talked to Mrs. GT and was just saying like, my gosh, how, like, this is exhausting for you, right? Like, how do you get through? And just asked how she was. And just because like I started that relationship from a, like, almost like treating them like equals, but also putting them on a pedestal. Like, it's crazy how much more willing they are to open up to you when you just, even though like you acknowledge that they're like up here and you might be down here, but you treat them like they're right there.
I mean, I have country artists, a rock artist, and a Christian artist that I work with as well. They're all recording artists. If I said the names, you'd probably know them. But the thing about it is that like I never ever approach them like they're so far above. They actually they endear me because I'm like, dude, you got a problem. Like I speak to them in the same language I speak everybody with. I don't change who I am. I just am. I'm me. When I talk to my country artists, I'm like, hey, dude, you got to fix your posture, brother. Like, there's some big time issues. Like, I know why you have your back pain. It's right here. It's staring me right in the face. And he's like, really? Yes. Let's fix that right now before it becomes a problem later on in life. And I was like, I bet you at some point you're going to have like hip pain or something. Oh my gosh, my dad had a hip replacement. I'm like, see, like I'm telling you, we got to fix this stuff, man. So it's just communication. You just talk to a person.
Right. I don't remember who said it, but it was the whole like treat the janitor the same way you treat the CEO. Yeah. Like before you can even get the referrals that you've had and charge the prices that you're able to charge, I think people got to figure that one out first.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Okay. So how much of your business is off of referrals?
Nearly every bit of it.
I assume that much.
I've gone and gotten a couple of people. I'm trying to think who I've gone and gotten. I would say that I went and got connections, but here's the deal. I don't have a single person that's not a referral. I got referrals from connections. Like I have 0 people that I didn't get from referrals. All of my people came from connections. Yeah.
Okay. So there's 2 things I want to cover to wrap up this episode. One is guidance for someone who's just getting started, where they can go to find these opportunities, find these people to kind of start and kickstart the whole referral system. And then 2, just a couple guidelines that people can do to, not just, increase the odds of getting referrals, but actually have a system in place where they can almost predictably get referrals. So to start out, do you have any strategies or recommendations for someone who just needs to go out and find that friend of yours in the church or find their version of that in their community?
So all that, a lot of this boils back to the basics of sales is knowing your customer, right? You go back, I always have to take people back there every single time. Okay. Who is your person even? If you don't know your person, you don't know how to talk with them. So for me, it was, man, I really enjoy talking with this guy. And I love being around them because I love their mindset. Like it's not because they have the money. I love their mindset. I totally understand it because I'm like, I grew up in this, and I'm like, oh man, I understand this. So me understanding that I love the way that they think, I want to be around more of these people. For some people, that means CrossFit. For some people, that means golf. For some people, that means tennis. I have a girl in the mentor program right now that is so interested in tennis. And it's like, great. Okay, here is what you do. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I told her on the mentor call on Monday. We actually went over Avatar on Monday. I said, how do you get around more tennis people? And she was like, well, I know who has access to those people. I said, who's that? The tennis pros. All these tennis pros teach lessons to people all the time. I said, so how many people do you think they have access to? She's like, I don't know. Probably like hundreds of people because there's like at least 3 to 5 tennis pros per club and all this. I'm like, okay, so you have a highly targeted audience of these people doing repetitive activities again and again. You think one of them is going to have a problem? Yes. Okay, who do you think who do you need to connect with? She's like, oh, the tennis pros. I'm like, done. That's what you need to target your approach to now is, how do I put myself in front of these tennis pros and get relationships with them? And then I took it back one step. I said, without having to go in cold, do you know anybody that actually knows those tennis pros? And she said, well, actually, I know some people that play tennis at these specific clubs that know the tennis pro. I was like, well, why don't you ask that person then? Ask that person to introduce you to the tennis pro. Tell them exactly what you do as a physical therapist. Hey, I work with tennis players. I was a Division I tennis athlete myself. I got hurt. I was going to be a Division I athlete. I got hurt. I said, tell the story. And that's why I'll have to back up like 1 second here. Because if you don't tell a story, you are missing a major connection piece. Because I guarantee you, how many other tennis pros had a similar story as what she has, where, hey, I hurt myself playing tennis. I had the opportunity to go and do something at a higher level. I guarantee you, percentage-wise, probably like 50 to 60% of them have had some kind of injury that limited them from moving farther on down the road. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'd love to connect with you. So I was like, tell the story, get your client to be like, hey, I have this PT, and get them to introduce you. So you have a warm introduction, you go in there, you talk a story, and guess what? I guarantee you there's going to be a connection. And now you have just started the beginnings of a relationship. And that is how I would tell someone to get in front of their target audience.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, find who has your people. That's what I tell people all the time. Find the people that have your people.
Right, and be resourceful. Ask your customers where you can find more people like them.
Oh gosh, yes.
It's so like I would be willing to bet that less than half of PTs do that.
Oh, most of them never ask for.
That's generous too.
Like, so the country artist we're talking about. The first call on him for the first session I had with the guy, I go, okay, who do you know that needs what I do?
Yeah.
He's like, well, actually, he's like, I would tour with a bunch of other people. We all have the same problems. I'm like, great. How about an intro?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's brilliant. I love that. So once you have people, ask them where you can find more people, and make sure that you have a nice, succinct story that's relatable to them, that they're going to remember exactly what you can do, and they can use to almost as a weapon that they'll actually remember to get that person to get in contact with you.
Yeah, and most people won't. I was going to say, most people won't remember your name, but they might remember your story.
Right. They'll much more likely to remember the story, that's for sure. So once you have these people, you ask them where they're going, and make sure to have a story in place. Okay. And what about approaching like other businesses? Like, how do you find, do you have like a guideline of like, once a week, I'm just going to go do cold walk-ins and just go introduce myself?
So most of what I do now for time efficiency is I actually connect with people on LinkedIn a lot now. And I do that almost every day. I will send out connection requests on LinkedIn, which then a lot of times they'll look at my profile. And I mean, here's the truth. The truth is you're going to get told no a lot. And then in turn, what I do is a lot of cold outreach. One thing that I have done just recently, I literally just started to do this, is I've started a Nashville business owners podcast because I'm going after business owners. So I started my own podcast, and I've started reaching out to people, because here's the truth is a lot of people view people that have a podcast or a platform or something like that as a form of influence and authority. And if they get a chance to speak on something like that, or if they get invited to be interviewed on something like that, it's a connection piece for them. So in essence, what I'm doing is I'm connecting a lot of business owners under one platform. And I asked my clients, I was like, hey, do you think this would be valuable? And they were like, actually, I'd love that. Because I'd love to learn from other people. So I'm reaching out to some heavy hitters and saying, hey, would you be open to being interviewed on my podcast? And guess what? When I interview them, I'm going to put it up on my LinkedIn profile, and boom, blast that dude out there. Like, holy crap, who's this guy? Why is this physical therapist interviewing business owners? It's a way for me to give value to my customers. And it has absolutely nothing to do with what I do, but it serves them in a different way. It's like completely thinking outside the box. So that's just one thing that I started like literally just recently doing.
It's so good.
To see if I could how can I add more value? So
it's a heck of a lot better way to start a relationship than just reaching out to them. Do you have any neck problems? Or that's
Hi, how are you? I'm a physical therapist. Do you have carpal tunnel syndrome because you're sitting at a computer all day? That's
No,
not
that's
the way
brilliant,
to
because
get somebody.
that reminds me of something else I wanted to circle back to when you're talking about how to connect with these like really affluent people, and how you look up to them because they've done just such amazing things. And you, obviously being a super ambitious business owner, I'm sure they can see themselves a little bit in you, which makes them want to help
Oh,
you even more.
so I literally got a call today from one of my clients, and I mean, with everything that's going on now, like with the virus and all that kind of stuff that's going
Mhm.
around, he just called to check on me. He literally called me. He's like, "Hey, Dustin, I just want to see how you're doing," because he knows. He says, "I know what it's like to start growing your own business," and he was like, "I just wanted to call and check and see how you're doing." And so these people see themselves in you. They see like, oh my gosh, like one of my clients literally started a calendar business out of the trunk of his car, grew it to over $30 million and sold it.
What?
His
What?
That's where he started his first business. And he sees himself in what I do. And so it's a connection piece for him. Having a business and connecting with other business owners. I mean, like my 28-year-old business owner, he so identifies with me as a business owner, and it makes him want to stick with me. He wants to find ways to continue to do business with me. So that's why we train together.
I love that.
It's fun.
Yeah, there's when I ran our software company and we did the whole investor thing and raising capital and that whole crazy show. One of the like really common phrases that gets tossed around is like, if you ask for money, maybe you get paid once, but if you ask for advice, you get paid twice.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like, especially for you, targeting highly affluent people, especially
Yep.
now that you have a podcast where you get to put them on a pedestal, make them feel really good, and ask them advice, and then introduce yourself as someone that can help them with this stuff. I bet that is going to absolutely kill it for you.
I'm excited about it. Like, it's a way for me to give back to them, because I mean, they're paying me a lot of money to work with them. So I'm like, how can I move? Like, I want to be able to move the needle for their business. If there's any way possible for me to move the needle in their business outside of making their physical body in the best condition that it can be,
Right.
by connecting them to someone else, I'm going to try to do that.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, I just want to try this and see if it'll work. And if it flops, it flops, whatever. I don't care.
Right.
But I'm already getting a good response out of it. That's the cool part. So
Love it.
it's neat. Yeah.
All right, so to kind of conclude everything, what I got down, my biggest takeaways were, one, you don't need digital marketing to grow rapidly and have a lot of success. That's complete BS. You're doing amazing just with your social capital, your relationships, and I love that, and that's personally my favorite form of marketing. All right, you're also you're focused around finding the people, make sure you're hanging around with them, and when you do treat someone, ask them, where can you find more people like them, and ask for an introduction. That's brilliant.
Yep.
You're reaching out on LinkedIn almost daily. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
No one's doing that. I got to have you on here for another episode just to talk about that.
Every day, man. Every day. It's a slow drip, but yep.
Love it. And you're starting a podcast, just getting all your output, as much output as you can, because it's going to create more input. Is there any other, and making sure that you have relatable stories for every major avatar that you're working with. Is there anything else, any advice that you'd have to help people grow their business, attract new clients, be a better business owner?
I mean, I would say, don't be afraid to just push the button in and go on something. Like, the reason I've gotten where I've gotten so fast is because I've just taken action on so many darn things and pushed. And when I think about it, is when I say take action, I take action and I push almost everything that I have into it. I'm pushing every bit of energy, every bit of effort that I have into it, just pushing as much as I can. And what happens is either it flops or it does something great. Luckily, I've had enough things do stuff that's great. Here's the truth. I think this is a secret of business, is that when you put a lot of effort behind something, you create momentum, you create movement, And
Yep.
sometimes that movement opens up an idea in your brain. You're like, oh, I need to pivot here just a little bit and tweak it. And then maybe you have somebody else come along like, oh yeah, you need to tweak this a little bit. Like you have a business owner,
Yep.
like I get to work with, and they're like, hey, do this one little thing. And you do it and you're like, oh my gosh, like one of my business owners said, write down your goals every day. I was like, really? Do that? Why would I do that? And he's like, just trust me. And one of my goals was to hit $20,000 a month. I did it in February.
Nailed it. That's so insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like compounding effort. If you just, I mean, like I wouldn't have my agency, I wouldn't have this show or anything if I didn't run a software company that built physical therapy software for 4 years and just got my butt kicked every single day. And if it wasn't for all the lessons learned during that, I wouldn't know how to do any of this stuff. So you're so
don't
right
give
there.
up. Don't give up on your vision. That's one thing that I like more than anything. There's so many people that stop so short of where like you're right there. There are so many people that I know that are right on the cusp. And like some of my coaching students, they are like literally right here. I'm like, do not give up. I'm not going to let you give up. Don't even think about giving up on yourself, because the truth is you are so close, and there are people on the other side of you chipping away one more little strike. There are people on the other side of that are waiting on you to hit that one more time. And if you do that, it opens you up to the opportunity on the other side. So keep at it. Don't give up. That's the other piece.
Right. I love that. Huge words, spoken like a true veteran. Dustin, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom with all of us. We really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Recording.